with us about the benefits and then and the details of probiotic to let us have a further detail on these ingredients. So for tonight, right, Dr. Wong will share with us a few topics. One of it will be the introduction about the immune system and gut microbiota. And then Dr. Wong will share with us also on what is bifidobacteria, and then how do we use it to maintain our health. And that's why there are two important topics that are making me feel a very interest is that Dr. Wong will share with us the potential of BB536, right? How it works in our respiratory system, and then how this BB536 can help in improving the vaccine efficacy. So I think everybody is very concerned about vaccination recently. So that's why I think by taking BB536, right, how it works and how it will help us to improve the efficacy, I think most of people will be very interested on this part. And then and Dr. Wong will also share with us another ingredients also. The one is called M16V. These two ingredients, right, BB536 and M16V, has been contained in our InchaGuard since the first day of launching. So I think all of us, you have a long history and long experience on taking InchaGuard already. So by no wasting time, I will hereby I will try to make sure that tonight everything will going smoothly. And then for your informations, tonight sharing will be recorded. So if anybody, like, you have any question or anything, right, because due to the time constraint, you can try to write down in the chat box. I will try to record down, and then later on I will pass back to Dr. Wong. And after maybe a few days later, when Dr. Wong sort out all the answers, right, I will try to make it into a summary form and then pass to and then I'll try to disseminate into all our groups. Okay, so let's everybody, let's try to concentrate. And I will pass the session to Dr. Wong. She will share with us everything that we want to know about BB536 from now on. Okay, thanks a lot. So, Dr. Wong, I'll pass to you. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introductions. I will share my screen right now, and we will start the presentation very soon. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to these webinar sessions, and hello everyone. And I'm actually from Morinaga Mill, Japan. And as introduced by Perry just now, that I will be talking mainly about BB536, and I will also touch a little bit about M16V, and particularly looking on these two strains for immunity. So I think this is one of the very specific topic that every one of us are really concerned, especially during the time we live in right now. So before I actually started to dive into the very details about how our strains, how our probiotic strains work on the immunity, I would like to give a very brief overview on how our immune system works to protect us against foreign invaders, for instance, the viruses and also the pathogenic bacteria and fungi that live in our environment. So our immune system actually comprise three lines of barriers that actually protect us against the entry of invaders. So we are actually covered with first lines, which is the physical barriers, such as the skin, mucosa of the respiratory tract, gastrointestinal tract, and also the genitourinary tract. So this barrier will actually protect us, keep us free from the entry of the pathogens. But at certain times, pathogens will actually get their way into our body, and that's where our innate immunity will function. And this is the non-specific immune response, where our immune cells will start to attack the foreign invaders, and then they will try to produce different types of the components to fight against the pathogens and stop the viruses from spreading, for instance. And then if the situations get worse, then the third lines of the immune systems will actually come in, and it will actually start the acquired immune response, where the specific immune cells, T cell and B cell, will actually recognize the antigen, and then they will actually produce specific components such as antibody to attack the pathogens and try to stop the infections in our body. So that's how our natural immune systems work. So a lot of people do not really know that the gastrointestinal tract and the immune systems are actually interconnected. I think you have already heard a lot, especially due to the coronavirus situations. We started to learn more about the immune system. So people started to talk to you that our immune system actually has the largest reservoir in the gut. And this is indeed the truth, whereby 70% of our immune systems exist in our gut. And our gastrointestinal tract actually consists of the largest populations of the immune cells, where all the interactions with the foreign invaders actually exist and happened in our gut. At the same time, our gut is also home to trillions of microorganisms. So these include bacterial, fungi, and also viruses. So naturally, we are actually living together with bacterial and also viruses and other types of microorganisms. So in healthy state, these microorganisms do not actually cause harm to us. They actually have a dynamic balance with our immune system. And they have a close relationship with our host cells, and they also help us to maintain our health. And so we know that the gut microbiota can actually influence the 70% of the immune cells that are located in the gut. And also at the same time, the immune cells will also interact with our gut microbiota for certain immune response. So that's how exactly the real situations of the immune system and the gut system work. And in fact, in our daily life, a lot of factors would actually influence the dynamic balance of our gut microbiota and the immune cells. So for example, when we actually taking medications or taking alcohol, smoking with unbalanced diet, or we have a lot of stress during our due to our work, or we have lack of exercises, as well as one of the most important factor, aging. All these factors will actually cause the imbalance in our gut, whereby the bad bacteria that live inside our gut will overgrow, and they will take a lot of spaces in the gut, and then they will actually overcompete the good bacteria. So in that sense, the bad bacteria will actually get their role to infect us, and that's what we call as the dysbiosis. And such condition will actually alter the immune functions, and subsequently it will resulting in a lot of health issues in our for us. For instance, it will actually cause allergy, which is one of the most common ones in adults and also children, or infections, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. So all these are actually closely related to the compositions of the gut microbiota, the gut bacteria that live inside us, as well as the dynamic balance of their interactions with the immune system. So keeping our gut microbiota in a balanced state is really crucial. And I think one of the things that we really need to know here is that we need to find which gut bacteria that actually play a key role in maintaining the immune health in our overall health. And studies have shown that they highlighted that bifidobacteria is actually the keystone bacteria that play crucial role in our health. For instance, they maintain our health state, and studies have shown that their presence in our gut, as well as their influence on our health, is continuous from birth to old age. So as you can see from here, from birth until old age, the compositions of our gut, the levels of bifidobacterial, are closely related to the health state. In early life, if the babies have reduced number of bifidobacterial, which is the key good bacterial, it will actually have more problems. For example, they will have allergies, they are more susceptible to infections, they have gut problems, they have inflammations, and also they will actually more susceptible to have obesity development. And in adults, the same thing. If you have less than 10% of bifidobacteria in your gut, you will also have more problems, problems on the gut, allergies, obesity, and also susceptibility to infections. The same thing in old age. So if you have less than 5% of the bifidobacterial, you are more susceptible to have bowel problems, weakened immunity, and also reduced cognitive functions. So our health at every life stages are actually related to the levels of bifidobacterial. So what exactly bifidobacterial are? So it was actually first isolated in 1899 from a healthy breastfed infant. Bifidobacteria are actually found in a high abundance in breastfed infants. So we all know that breast milk is really a good nutrition for babies, and bifidobacterial is crowned as the best beneficial bacterial for babies. It plays a crucial role in maintaining baby's health. So bifidobacteria was first isolated from babies, and they actually present as bifurcated Y shapes. And they have very special shape that when we see under the microscope, we can easily recognize them with whereby they have a Y shape. So what bifidobacteria do is that they promote gastrointestinal health, they modulate immune system, and they also protect us against infections and also cancer. And at present, there are more than 90 different types of bifidobacterial. So they are actually differentiated by species and also strain designation. So you can imagine that in our world, in the whole environment, bifidobacteria are present in different types. Like us, we have different names. Bifidobacteria also have different names. So there are more than 90 species of them. And each of them are actually naturally resides in different hosts. They can be found in human gut. They can also be found in animal guts, like in chickens' intestine, cows' intestines, pig intestines, and also in insects and mouse. At the same time, they can also be found in the natural environment, such as sewage, and also in food products like milk and also yogurt. So different types of the bifidobacteria, they live in different environment. It's just like us humans, we live in different places. Bifidobacteria also live in different places. So I would like to actually ask you one question here is that, do you think all bifidobacteria that live in different places have the same capabilities, have the same functions to promote health in human body? So my answer here is, of course not. So bifidobacterial, they have their own specificity. They have their own capabilities, as well as their unique value. So they perform differently. It's just like us humans. When we are coming from different backgrounds, so we have different, we are coming from different education backgrounds, so we have different capabilities, we have different talents, and we perform differently. Bifidobacteria also the same. They perform differently depending on who they are, the strain specificity, and also the origin. And a lot of the species that present in the market right now consist of non-human residential bifidobacterial. meaning they are actually originated from animals or food products. So they live in these specific places originally, and they were isolated by the manufacturer, and they were developed into probiotic agents and added into different supplement products and also food products. So these common bacterial, bifidobacterial species are called B. animalis and subspecies animalis and B. animalis subspecies lactis. So they actually have different capacities, different functions as compared to those that naturally resides in human gut. So those that naturally reside in our gut, we call them as human residential bifidobacterial. So some of the manufacturers, they will actually develop the strains. They wanted to have the naturalness of probiotics. So they actually discovered the good bacteria from babies, healthy babies, and they isolated those bacteria. For instance, B. longum, B. infantis, B. brevis. These are some of the species that naturally reside in human gut. So manufacturers would actually isolate them and then develop them into the product, for instance, in supplement products. So we as consumer, when we are considering to buy a product, we should actually carefully think about the origin, because different types of the species would actually have different functions because of their background, because of where they come from. And what I'm trying to say here is that human residential bifidobacterial species are more natural and they are more human friendly because they naturally reside in our gut. They already know how to live with us, and they already know how to adapt to our environment. So studies, a lot of research have found that they have superior physiological functions in our gut. And in the next couple of slides, I will show you some of the physiological functions that HRB species have. One of them is that they have the capacity to degrade various types of carbohydrates that is present in our diet. I would like to take infant as an example here. For babies, the main nutrition is breast milk. And in breast milk, it actually contains a high levels of human oligosaccharides, which is one type of carbohydrates that presents in a very high amount in breast milk. And in fact, not all bifidobacterial species can break down HMOs, which is human milk oligosaccharides. Only, as you can see here in the graph, only HRB species, especially the specific species, they can cut down human milk oligosaccharides and they can survive in breast milk. So they can give the full value of breast milk, the full good value of breast milk to the babies and help them to develop their health in later life. At the same time, in adults, when we consume our daily diet, a lot of times we will actually encounter different types of fibers. And we know that fibers cannot be degraded by our host enzymes. So we cannot cut down the fibers and absorb the nutrients by ourselves. And we have to depend on the gut bacteria that live inside us. And studies have shown here, not all different types of the bifidobacteria can have the capacity to cut down the fibers for us. Only HRB, for example, the specific species of HRB, Bifidobacterium longum, subspecies longum, and also B. adolescentis, as I'm showing you here, the two examples, they can help us to cut different types of the fibers, the carbohydrates that is present in our diet, in our daily diet, and then help us to actually absorb the full nutrients from our diet, and also to maintain a healthy intestinal microenvironment. So another beneficial effect, superiority of HRB species, is that they can produce high levels of vitamin B9, which is what we call as folate. So Human body, we cannot produce vitamin B9 folate by ourselves. We have to take from our daily diet. For example, we eat green leaf vegetables, or we have to rely on the gut bacteria to produce them for us. So bacterial metabolisms in the gut will produce folate, and folate has an important function where it can help us to maintain the iron levels in our body and prevent anemia. So here I'm showing you here that not every types of bifidobacterial can produce folate. You can see here the green color, which represent non-HRB, which are actually originated from animals or food products. They can only produce very limited amounts of folate, which is not sufficient for us to maintain health. But in contrast, HRB species, for example, Bifidobacterium longum BB536, is highly capable of producing folate. And subsequently, when we try to feed the animal model with the single strain BB536, and we compare them with another strain, a non-HRB strains, and we examine the levels of folate and also their hematological condition, we found that those that actually consumed BB536, the animals that actually consume BB536 can actually have high levels of the folate produced. And at the same time, their anemia conditions was also improved. So vitamin B9 folate is really important because especially for developing babies, pregnant women, and also seniors, because all this population, they need folate to make healthy new cells. Our cells will actually gradually, we have a cell cycle, so cells will actually gradually degrade and they will be eliminated from time to time, and we need to produce new cells in order to maintain health. And in order to make new cells, we need vitamin B9, which is folate. And this is where the bifidobacterial, for example, BB536 HRB strains would actually help in this area, whereby it can actually produce high levels of folate. And in fact, if we lack of folate in children and also adults, we can see that it can cause a lot of health problems. For example, neural tube defects, neurological deteriorations, stunting, where the babies or the children will have abnormal growth, as well as anemia conditions and cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's disease. So the capability of HRB strain BB536 to produce folate is really a plus point for this bacterial, for this probiotic strain. And another superiority of HRB species is that they can produce indole-3 lactic acid, which is a very scientific name of a component that was derived from our dairy diet. So when we consume proteins from eggs, from milk, from cheese, it will actually containing tryptophan as the metabolite, and our gut bacteria will actually degrade tryptophan that is present in our daily dietary proteins, and subsequently they will produce ILA. So specific HRB strain, for example, BB536, has strong capacity to produce ILA. At this time, you must be very curious what is actually ILA, which is really a scientific term here. ILA is actually a messenger that help our body to communicate with our cells. So it is a signal. It is a messenger that will actually send signals to our body, and then to maintain health, for instance, it will control inflammatory response in our body. At the same time, it was also found to have another functions to promote the growth of neuron cells. So it actually acts as a messenger, and it will send signals to our body to ask our body to do certain work one of the work is to maintain inflammatory condition. Another one is to promote the growth of neuronal cells in our body. And in other words, the strains BB536 that can produce high levels of ILA would actually giving us superiority function. And the last one example that I would like to show here is that HRB are also superior at colonizing in our gut as compared to the non-HRB, as you can see here. After consuming the HRB strains Bifidobacterium infantis, we can find a high abundance of the bacterial that is present in the gut as compared to the babies who consumes Bifidobacterium lactis, which is a non-HRB strains. And this study actually emphasized that HRB strains would really colonize better. They can actually reside better in our gut, and they can contribute to better health. So these are some of the examples of HRB strains that I would like to emphasize. And following that, I would actually introduce you the strains Bifidobacterium longum BB536, which is a hero HRB strain. So BB536 is a well-researched HRB probiotic strains. It has been supported by more than 210 scientific studies, and out of them, 80 of them are clinical studies. And it has been proven to be beneficial for all age groups, from infant to seniors. So BB536 has excellent stability profile thanks to the Japanese innovative technology. BB536 is also regulatory approved. It is generally recognized as safe GRAS under the United States FDA regulations. And it has a long history of safe use, more than 40 years in more than 30 countries worldwide. So in the next couple of slides, I will show you the main topic in this presentation, which is how BB536 benefit the immune system, which I will cover first on the immunomodulations, modulatory activity of BB536. And secondly, I will be showing you some of the examples of how BB536 would actually protect us against respiratory tract infections. And the last part would be on how it actually improves immune response to vaccine. So without further ado, let's start with the first part, where we will be dive into how BB536 would benefit the immune system. So in healthy adults, in healthy state, our gut are actually covered with a balanced compositions of the gut microbiota, the gut bacterial, a balanced amount of good and also bad bacterial, as well as a balanced amount of the immune cells, not too much of the inflammatory cells, not too little of the inflammatory cells, in a balanced mode. But due to our daily stresses, daily different types of factors like lack of sleep, we have poor nutrition, we do not exercise, we drink alcohol, we smoke, a lot of different factors would actually give a lot of stress to our gut, and the balance compositions of the gut bacteria would be disturbed. And at that time, we will see that the amount of bifidobacterial will be reduced. And the bad bacterial, for example, enterobacterial, will start to overgrow. And this will also lead to imbalance in the immune system, where we will see that a lot of T helper 2 cell, which is actually the inflammatory cells, will start to overtake the T helper 1. And we will see an imbalance in the immune system. And all this would eventually lead to inflammations in our gut, in our body, and the inflammation is actually one of the culprit to a lot of different health problems in our life. For example, it will actually cause infections, obesity, allergies, and etc. So here I'm showing you immunomodulatory activity of BB536, where consuming BB536 would actually maintain gut homeostasis, the balance of the gut compositions, and also maintaining the T helper 1 to T helper 2 immune balance. At the same time, it also have an anti-inflammatory effect where it will actually positively modulate the immune response. So I'm showing you here one of the clinical data where BB536 consumptions improve the gut environment. So consuming BB536 yogurt, which is one of the popular products sold in Japan, this product was really popular. So in this study, the subjects with slight constipations, they were taken BB536 yogurt daily for 2 weeks. And the results show that after consuming BB536, the percentage of bifidobacterial, which is the good bacteria in the gut, was significantly increased. At the same time, the defecation, the bowel movement, defecation frequency was also significantly increased after taking BB536. And the levels of the bad components that is present in the gut was also significantly reduced. So it shows that BB536 improved the intestinal environment and maintained a healthy state in our body. Another study here showing that BB536 would actually maintain immune balance. So this is a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, involved 44 adults, 22 in placebo and 22 in BB536 group. And they were taken 50 billions of BB536 twice daily for 13 weeks. And the result shows that subjects who taken BB536 over the 13 weeks, they have their subjective allergic symptoms remitted, and also they have their immune balance restored after taking the BB536 supplement powder. And particularly their nasal symptoms was significantly improved as compared to the placebo control, as you can see from this graph. So BB536 would actually give a positive modulations to the immune system and maintaining the healthy, dynamic balance of the immune cells. Next, moving to the protections against respiratory tract infections, BB536 shows great promise in improving immune systems against infections, particularly focusing here today is the respiratory tract infection. So we all know that our immune system, our immunity is related to age. As we first born, our immune systems are still underdeveloped. So we are more susceptible to infections because we have lesser immune cells in our body in early life. And then as we grow in adulthood, our immune system start to increase. Immune activity start to increase, and we are more, we have a stronger immune system, and we are more, also less susceptible to infection. But at old age, especially, our immune activity reduced significantly, and we are more susceptible to infection. So that is what we say that following birth, our immune systems needs to be trained by the exposures to the microorganism so that they can recognize what is good for them, what is bad for them. And from there, they will actually know how to react to foreign invaders whenever there is one enter the body. And then as we age, the immune systems also becomes weaker because we can see here the number of the beneficial bacterial, bifidobacterial, were significantly reduced at old age. And at the same time, the immune activity was also significantly reduced. So they are all correlated, and this will actually lead to higher risk of infection. So throughout our lifespan, we will be encountered by different type of viruses that cause respiratory tract infections. One of the most common one is influenza virus, which was commonly caused in many countries. And at our time now, we are actually suffered by the attack by coronavirus. So all these are actually the common viruses that actually cause respiratory tract infections, and we would actually require our immune system to protect us against the invasions by these viruses. So I would like to address more about COVID-19, because this would be one of the most important concern for every one of us right now. And I will be showing you what is the relations between the gut health and also coronavirus infection. So in COVID-19 patients, gastrointestinal symptoms are common, which include diarrhea and also vomiting. So studies have shown that if you have poor gut health, you will be more likely to have severe COVID-19 symptoms. So it actually, in other words, it actually suggests that if we could actually maintain a good gut health, it will actually protect us against severe forms of COVID-19. So this is indeed true, because studies have actually summarized the associations of the gut microbiota and also COVID-19. So they show that the lung and gastrointestinal tract are actually linked. So of course, when we first encountered the coronavirus, it actually happened in the upper respiratory tract, so in our lung system. But actually, this coronavirus will eventually translocate. They will actually translocate and move to our gastrointestinal tract, and it will also attack our gastrointestinal tract and causing imbalance in our gut. And that would actually lead to more severe form of the symptoms, especially it will actually causing a lot of life-threatening conditions in the COVID-19 patients. And one of the things here I would like to highlight is also chronic diseases are also associated with altered gut microbiota. So if you have diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular diseases, and eventually your gut microbiota are already altered. And because of such conditions, you are also more prone to severe COVID-19 symptoms, and you are more likely to be having serious conditions of COVID and also death. So gut microbiota are actually connected with the COVID-19, and in particular, one study have actually examined which bacteria have the most relations with COVID-19, and in this study, they actually show that in COVID-19 patients, especially those that have severe and also critical illnesses of COVID, they have reduced numbers of bifidobacteria in their gut. And also, at the same time, they also have reduced number of other beneficial bacteria and increased number of pathogens, common pathogens in the gut. This is a state that is really bad to the patients, because when you have reduced number of bifidobacteria and increased number of pathogens, you will be more prone to inflammatory state, and you will have more, you are more prone to disease state and severe disease state and also death. So the study here showing that reduced bifidobacteria are associated with COVID severity, and it is really important for us to supplement bifidobacteria, because the presence of bifidobacteria, in this case, they are actually related to maintenance of liver as well as the heart functions. So bifidobacteria not only maintain healthy gut and also immune system, They also maintained liver and also heart functions as shown in this paper, whereby reduced number of the bifidobacterial actually related to reduced functions of the liver and also heart function. So it actually suggests that we have to boost the number of beneficial gut species, especially bifidobacterial, which was depleted in COVID-19. And if we boost the amount of bifidobacterial, it will may actually help to mitigate disease severity. So because of the coronavirus situation is still relatively new, and we do not actually have clinical evidence on that particular infection yet, but I'm showing you here the potentials of BB536 to actually help us to ease the symptoms of upper respiratory infections and also reduce the risk of developing other types of the respiratory infections, for example, COVID in instance. So in this study, the subjects were actually 219 children aged 2 to 6 years, and they were actually consuming BB536 or placebo for 10 months. And the result actually showed that subjects who consume BB536 have their durations of the clinical symptoms shortened, which means they have lesser prevalence of fever, sore throat, cough, and also runny nose. All these are actually related to the upper respiratory infections. When we have flu-like infections, we will often suffer with sore throat and also fever and etc. So consuming BB536 will actually reduce durations of having these symptoms and also shorten and also reduce the prevalence of these symptoms in the subjects, especially here is the children. And next study here showing that consuming BB536 in elderly people for 19 weeks would actually reduce their prevalence of getting flu infections and also reduce the prevalence of fever. So here I'm showing you here consuming BB536 would actually improve the body's defense system, particularly on the amount of natural killer cell. So previously in the early presentations, I actually show you that our body would have 3 lines of defense system. So the second line of defense system is the innate immunity, which comprises of natural killer cell. Natural killer cell is really a key player in the immune systems, where it will actually stop the spreading of the virus infections, the invaders, and then it will actually, kill the pathogens and then subsequently stop the infection. So in this study, consuming BB536 for 19 weeks in the seniors would actually increase the number of natural killer cell. In other words, it actually increased their immune response towards the flu infections, the influenza virus. So these are some of the examples that showing the potentials of BB536 in improving respiratory tract infection. Next, I will be moving on to the effects of BB536 on immune response to vaccine. This is also one of the most important topic that we the most concerned part, where we will be taking COVID-19 vaccines from time to time now, and how our body responds to vaccine and whether or not it will actually protect us against infections is really crucial. And the vaccine efficacy is actually affected by age. As shown here, the immune systems tends to get weaker as we age, and then especially in seniors, the vaccine effectiveness decreased from 70 to 90% in healthy adults to just 17 to 53% of efficacy in seniors. So in general, seniors already have weakened immunity, and at the same time, they also have very limited vaccine efficacy. They respond limitedly to vaccine. So it is really important for us to boost the immune response in seniors, for them to react properly to the vaccine and then to get the full protection from the vaccine. And as shown here, BB536 would actually improve influenza vaccine immune response and natural resistance in seniors. This is a clinical studies involve 45 seniors, with an average age of 82 years old, and the durations of taking BB536 was 18 weeks. So the subjects who taken BB536, 50 billions of BB536 twice a day, have increased number of the beneficial bifidobacterium in their gut. At the same time, I'm showing you here that it actually increased two different parts of their immune response. One is the activity on natural killer cell activity. Another one is on their ability to produce antibody. So we all know that when we take vaccine, we want our body to be trained to produce antibody that can attack the virus, that can help us to eliminate the pathogen, the pathogenic viruses, and then to help us, to prevent us from getting infection. So in this study here, it shows that BB536 consumption would actually increase the productions of antibody against H1N1 influenza virus by 33% after the consumptions as early as at 6 weeks. And then the immune response was actually improved in the seniors. It actually gives us an image that after the consumptions of BB536, it would actually help the elderly people to get used to the how to say, the entry of the pathogens, and they are more readily to fight back against the infection. So that's all about BB536. I will quickly go through the effects of M16V, which is a heroin HRV strains, particularly focusing on immune balance. So M16V is also a well-researched HRV probiotic strain. It has more than 90 scientific studies, with over 40 of them focusing on 40 of them are clinical studies and focusing on infants. And M16V is also an excellent ingredient manufactured by Japanese technology with an excellent stability profile. It is also regulator approved, generally recognized as GRAS under the FDA, US FDA regulations. And more importantly, M16V is highly safe. It has a long history of safe use. It has been used in more than 150 neonatal intensive care units for low birth weight babies in Japan, in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore to support their health. So in other words, it can say that for those premature baby, very small babies, they can already consume M16V, which means M16V is really recognized as a highly safe probiotic ingredient. And here in the next couple of slides, I will show you the effects of M16V on immune balance, on how M16V will maintain gut microbiota homeostasis, and also how it will positively modulate the immune response and reduce inflammation. One of the examples here is that combining M16V and also BB536 and given them to the mothers, pregnant mothers 1 month before deliveries, and then continue by their newborns up to 6 months old. And the result shows that the pre and also postnatal consumptions of the probiotic mixtures reduce the risk of developing eczema, which is one of the skin allergy in infants up to 1.5 years old. So the incidence of the atopic dermatitis eczema was significantly reduced, as you can see in this graph, reduced by 22.4% at 10 months old, and also 16.2% in 1.5 years old. So the babies actually only taken the probiotics mixture until 6 months old. And after 6 months old, the effect of the reductions of occurrence of allergy still remained until 1.5 years old. So that's one of the example of M16V effect on immune balance. Another one is on their effects to alleviate allergic symptoms in children. So this study involved 40 children's average age of 9 years old, who taken the probiotics mixture for 4 weeks, and they show that their allergic symptoms, particularly their nasal symptoms, was significantly reduced. And these children would also have a significant improvement on their quality of life. So that's almost the end of my presentation here. Here are some of the conclusion. One important point that I would like to emphasize here is that our gut and immune health are interconnected, and the resident bacteria that live inside our gut help us to regulate the immune system and also regulate our responses to infection. And HRB probiotics in particular are actually the one that is the most suitable for humans use. They are the resident bacterial that have superior physiological functions, and they contributed to better health in humans as compared to those that are originated from animals or food. Human strains are more suitable for human consumption. And one of the examples that I'm showing you here is BB536 as a hero HRB strain. It is clinically effective at improving immune response and protecting us against infection. M16V is another heroine HRB probiotic strains that has been clinically proven to maintain immune balance and protect against allergy. So combining BB536 and M16V for daily consumptions would actually give us full protections, focusing on gut and immune health. And before I actually end my presentations, I would actually wanted to give you some time to actually consider or think about these questions. We have been advised by many nutritionists, by doctors, to actually take a balanced diet, to include exercise, to actually have adequate rest, as well as to consume enough water, and also enough compositions, a balanced compositions of proteins, carbohydrates, and also fat. But I would like to actually ask you one particular question, and would like you to actually bring this question home and think about it. Is it time for us to actually include safe probiotics as a component, as an essential components in our daily diet, particularly the safe probiotic strains like BB536 and M16V? So given that we know that the gut and also immune systems are interconnected, and we know how important for us to maintain the good gut health, I think it is really the time for us to consider adding the right probiotic strains into our diet, into our daily diet, to get a full protections against infections, and also to maintain our health. So that's all for my presentation here. Thank you very much for your time. I think I have been talking too much, very long time. Feel free to ask me questions if you have any, and I will be happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Dr. Wong sharing. Thank you very much for fantastic sharing. So I think since Dr. Wong is open for question and answer, so anyone, if you have any questions, or you can type in the chat box. We try to answer maybe 5 questions. Is it okay? Anyone, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat box. Maybe I can ask the first questions to Dr. Wong. For those people that are going to get vaccine, right? Can they take BB536 at the same day, or one day before, or one day after? Is it as you can take it as usual only?
Yeah, you can actually take it as usual. So there wouldn't be any harm to the vaccine's effect or it wouldn't actually cause any side effects to your health.
Okay.
When you are taking vaccines, at the same time, you are also taking the probiotics. So as I mentioned in my presentation today, in fact, if you take the probiotic strains BB536 together with vaccinations, it will actually reduce the side effects, the symptoms of side effects, and also it will actually improve the efficacy of our immune response to the vaccine.
Very much.
Even though even though until today we do not have the exact clinical data because the coronavirus is a new virus and we haven't conducted any studies yet, but I would say it shows a great potentials in improving our health in the way of getting vaccination.
So there's a second question. Can I know the probiotics only increase the natural killer cell and B cell, while BB536 increase other immune cell?
In fact, we do not actually see it in clinical study, but in animal models, we do see that BB536 can actually increase the T cells activity as well. So not only the B cell and also antibody productions, but also on other immune cells like T cells as well. BB536 would actually shows positive effect on that.
So meaning that it will help you increase other immune cells in such a way that to say that you won't over increase into a danger zone. You will increase in a very balanced or smooth pathway, right?
Yeah, you're right. So one of the, unique points of the beneficial bacteria is that they will actually interact with our immune cells. They send signals to our immune cells. So if your conditions is lacking some immune responses, then it will actually ask our immune cells to produce more of the component to fight against infection. But if you are in the conditions that your immune systems are overreacting, you produce too much of the inflammatory components, causing inflammations in your body, then the beneficial bacterial probiotic strains, for example, BB536, will ask your immune cells to stop the reaction.
Okay, fantastic. Very intelligent. Okay. There's one question asking about, can BB536 help on gastric reflux?
Gastric reflux. We do have one study showing that it can actually help on this area, but I couldn't really, explain too much in details because I would actually just say that it has one study showing the positive effects on that. Yeah.
For Maggie question, how much bacteria per sachet? This one answer to you, 2.5 B per sachet. Then what is the source content BB536 and what is the source? What is the source content of BB536 and M16V? I think from human baby, right?
Yeah, from healthy breastfed baby.
Yeah. How does BB help those people do not have gut? How does BB536 help those people do not have gut? Funny question. This one. Are probiotic and enzymes the same? Different
They
mechanisms.
are totally different thing. Yeah.
What about before vaccination? Can take a usual? Yes, can. No problem. So before and after taking vaccine, how can we consume it? You can consume as usual. So no much different. How much intake of Inchaga per day for how long? For killing hairy core bacteria, pylori bacteria. For this one, for BB536, how efficient for it on hairy core bacteria?
Yeah, we do actually have studies showed on this area. So BB536 effectively eliminate H. pylori in the patients. Yeah, it shows effectiveness on that area. Yeah.
Very cool question on regarding the TH1 helping reducing. Yes, I think BB536 will help to increase TH1 and reduce TH2, right?
Yes. So essentially, we need to have a balanced TH1 and TH2. So essentially, BB536 will increase TH1 to make it into a balance.
And can I think only disease of patient age 12 to take? Yes, okay, can no problem, can take. This one for volume yeah, everybody can take. It's a very good product. If allergic towards soy and sugar can still take, yes, no problem. And then bigger is a strain of group, a strain or probiotic have this. BB536 is a strain of group or strains for all broad. I think BB536 is one of the Bifido strain.
Yep, you're right. BB536 is one of the strain of the probiotics bifidobacterial, and not all probiotics are BB536. It is one specific bacterial.
Yeah.
Like one specific individual, like me, is one specific individual.
Yes,
BB536 is one specific individual. Yeah.
Yeah, total 90 plus species, right?
Yeah, 90 plus species, but do not taking into consideration how many strains.
Okay.
Species is like ethnicity, like Chinese, Malay, Indian, so in bifidobacterial group, they have 90 different types of bacterial. Yeah.
And for Michelle, Christian, this one, Michelle, maybe you can PM to our lecturer on your questions. We'll try to answer to you in deep. And does BB536 helps in fever and headache? Yes, that's good. Comparing these two groups of ingredients in a powder product, can I know if both are yes? Yes, very good. BB5 group 1, yeah, both our Inchaga contain both BB536 and M16V. I think you're referring to M16V, right? Okay, another kind of section, stuff. This one for Michelle, maybe you try to approach our teacher. They will share with you. Okay, for your question. Okay, so anyhow, at the end, I would like to say very thank you to Dr. Wong for your great sharing. Hopefully, near future to share more about problems with us again in the coming days. So once again, thank you very much for your sharing. Yeah, and thank you very much for the audience for coming over here. Thank you very much, and see all of you again. Yeah, and then hopefully, if you have further question, you can direct to us through the other channels like WeChat or WhatsApp, or try to approach our Dr. Wong and come back to you again. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good night, all. Thank you, Dr. Wong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.